Diane, I'm listening to a podcast, Black Lodge Trivia Night. I've never heard so many game aspirations in my life.
All right, welcome back to Black Lodge Trivia Night. This is Art, and I'm solo one more time. Schedule has been a bear, and what I thought I would do is what I said I was going to give a shot last time. We finished up Alone Against the Dark in Fantasy Grounds. Got to the end of that story, had a really good time. It was really fun to mess around with Fantasy Grounds, and then I had mentioned that maybe I'll do the next one just to sort of vis-a-vis it a little bit with another VTT, and the one I thought I was going to do was Alchemy. I don't really love Alchemy, and then I saw that official Chaosium content had started coming up for Foundry, and so let's do it here instead. I've got my Call of Cthulhu starter set ready to go, and we're here in Foundry, and I figured we could just give it a go. So just so you know, we're going to go to our modules. I got the Call of Cthulhu starter set. You can now buy that from Foundry's new marketplace, which I gotta say, I'm really happy that's coming into being to sort of consolidate everywhere. Like I know Roll20, Alchemy, obviously Fantasy Grounds, they all have like a core marketplace. And I don't want to say that the Foundry one has everything that's available for it, because I know like they just had a sale, and one of the things you couldn't really find through the marketplace was Warhammer. I'm looking at it. Sorry, it's Cubicle 7. I think, is that who makes it? Anyway, like you couldn't find any of that. I don't know how much Savage World. I think Savage World, some of it was on the marketplace, but it was good to see like Shadow of a Demon Lord. There was some Free League stuff. Again, I'm looking at my thing as a reminder. It was good to see the marketplace get going and get off the ground. So anyway, so yeah, we've got the Call of Cthulhu starter set. Color picker, I don't know why that I think is something that probably got chosen when something else got picked. You see some of my homebrew stuff like Days Vault. Some of my fantasy token collection, I bought those. FX Master, I think, lets you do like fog and things like that. Dice Tray, I think, is a must-have. It's sort of this down here. It lets you click there and roll a die. Dice So Nice is what gives you that 3D die, and the sound effect. Maybe not the sound effect, but definitely the 3D die. Another one I think is a must-have. Lock View just basically helps me with backgrounds, and I don't think we're going to be doing many backgrounds, but we'll see. I'm literally going in cold, so... PDF pagers, this is just a bunch of stuff. You don't need a pop-out. You can see right here, there's a pop-out right there. It lets you pop it out and put it on another part of the monitor, which is something that like Roll20 has, and so this sort of mimics that functionality. Resizer. The one trick with pop-out is you can't resize it, so you need a resizer to go along with it, so you can control the size and shape of the windows that you bring out. Quick Insert actually is a really useful one. It's control space, and it lets you just sort of do a quick starter set. It just basically searches the whole everything in this particular instance. And roll table from sidebar and journal, I don't think we're going to need. That's something I use when I homebrew, so that you could just sort of click something here without having to open it. You could just click it and say, roll this table. Oh, maybe there's a table here we could try. Roll. I think that's added by roll from sidebar. Otherwise, you'd have to open it and then click roll. So this is going to let you sort of just roll it right from there. It's a little bit of a shortcut, a little time saver. Anyway, but the main thing is that, yeah, Call of Cthulhu starter set is now available for purchase. And so what we're going to do is I put it down here in my hotbar. And here we go. Welcome to Call of Cthulhu starters. So first of all, I want to apologize. It's pretty early in the morning. I've gotten one of my first like old man injuries where like I don't know what's going on. Like my shoulder's really messed up, and if you ask me how I did it, I have to honestly tell you I have no idea. It's not that I slept on it wrong, because it was hurting before I went to sleep. This was a couple days ago, so I haven't slept in like 2 days, almost a couple hours maybe each night, because it's so just nagging. It's similar feeling to when I tore my rotator cuff in college. That was this arm. It just dialed down. It's that kind of sensation, that kind of ache, but just toned down significantly. I was surprised how much tearing a rotator cuff hurt. Anyway, so I'm probably half hallucinating, which actually might be the perfect mindset to go into this, so let's give it a shot. Let's see. To install this content, use the buttons below. So one thing you have to do, I think I've already done it. Just to make sure. Yes, Alone Against the Flames. There's actually, so in the starter set, I'm going to make a noise here. There's a couple different books. Book 1 is actually a similar style adventure to Alone Against the Dark, Alone Against the Flames. Choose your own adventure style thing that sort of introduces you. I've done it before with my kids, so this isn't like a fresh playthrough. Then there's like a second book, which is sort of introductory rules to get you going. It's definitely pared down. It's a nice little pamphlet, to help you do what you need to do. And then book 3 is a couple of other short adventures. So make sure I'm getting in there. So all of this is included in the starter set. So it's a kind of actually really nice. I don't think the starter set actually costs that much. I don't know, maybe $15. Don't quote me on the price, but you get, like I said, the Choose Your Own Adventure introduction, and then you get 3 sort of one-shots, I think, to get you started. I don't know, it's kind of nice. So what you do is when you click on these, there's a thing to import adventure. I think I've already imported it because, again, I have journal entries. And I forget what else. So, but if this were brand new, you'd click Paper Chase, then you could import adventure, and it would bring all these things in, the actors' journal entries, and it would sort of populate everything here. If you remember, this is how you did the pyramid puzzle when I was doing Alone Against the Dark. But anyway, so we don't need to import this because I already did it. But and then we're going to get started. It gives you a little bit of information about like the UI, navigating Foundry. So it's kind of a nice little overview. I've only skimmed it, so there's a good chance that I'm going to miss a lot that I probably need to know, but that's okay. The introductory rules. I might import this for the rulebook. You know what? Let's just import everything. No, let me import the introductory rules. So now you're going to see ready-made investigators. So you got these ready to go. Nevada Jones. A little more. Oh, I don't know if you remember this from. This is different. This is very different. This whole interface has been redone. Keeper's notes. These are effects. So these 2, I think, are for the keeper. You can add different things. This is really nice. Totally redone since I was showing it to you during Alone Against the Dark. It's nice. You got the skills, you got combat. It's similar in some ways, but they've sort of polished it up a little bit. Put these on the side. Really, this is really nice. Again, this isn't too different. It's a regular combined opposed. You can decide how many bonus dice, and you can give it a roll. And strength check, regular difficulty, regular success, 1 levels of success. So if you need that for like opposed things, it's like, you did. I think this works the same as like other D100s where like you get a success and they get a failure that's 1 level. You get a critical success, they get a failure that's 2 levels. I think that's how it works. But anyway, again, you check the box here if you use the skill. Wow, this is really nice. Okay, so let's just get started. Learn to play in the best way possible by playing. Special introduction, Alone Against the Flames, a solo Call of Cthulhu scenario teaches you the basic rules of the games and character creation as you find yourself in the rural New England town of Emberhead. But can you escape? So let's open that up. We already did this, so I'm going to go to the journal entry for introductory rules. Okay, nice. It's good to have this. We're going to do this. What's the other pages? Do not read this until instructed to do so. Perfect. Good enough. Okay, so we're going to dive right in. While progressing through this adventure, you will create your new investigator. To start the adventure, go to entry 1. Foundry VTT note, if you've already created an investigator and want to continue from the last entry you viewed, you can drag your character. So you just drop the character here. I haven't made one yet, so let's go through their process and see how it works. Entry 1. The sun is high in the sky, a merciless ball of heat. You feel scorched by the time you reach the bus halt in front of Osborne's drugstore. It's a relief to put down your heavy cases and take off your hat for a moment. You fan your face. It's been a long summer here in your hometown, and yet a curiously empty one. You look across the street at the grubby butcher shop, the grocer's with its fading awning, and the shabby tobacconist. Mistrustful faces glare at you as they pass, eyeing your clothes and luggage. It was your parents' choice to live here, not yours. You were happy down south as a child, among Providence's white-walled houses and leafy churchyards. Perhaps this new job in Arkham will supply the change you need. There's always that sort of above-the-table shudder when... Oh, this is going to go to Arkham. Here we go. Yet everybody you know in the world lives here. You know nobody in Arkham, not one soul. You ask yourself one last time if you're doing the right thing. The answer is here. None of your supposed friends have come to see you off. You're alone. Whatever challenges lie in Arkham, it will be a new life, and a brave one. A small gray motor coach approaches and rattles to a stop. You put your hat back on and you pick up your cases. Go to entry 263. So you can see right away how this works a little differently. What Fantasy Grounds did is they often had like a little dot next to a text entry. This is because it's like CSS or whatever web pages are made of. It's sort of like it sort of makes this a clickable link. Okay. Two young men with sullen expressions alight from the coach. One looks you up and down before heading away. The driver also steps down, glancing at you before crossing the road to visit the tobacconist. When he returns, he's rolling a cigarette between his yellow fingers. He gives it a final twist and examines you as he reaches for his matchbox. He's a thin man in his 50s, dressed in a stained shirt with the bus company emblem. Yet his eyes are sharp in their dark sockets. Where to? You show him your ticket for Ossipee. From there, you'll connect to Rochester and Portsmouth before the coastline to Newburyport and finally Arkham. Is Arkham in Massachusetts or Maine? I always assumed Massachusetts. Portsmouth is New Hampshire, I think. Anyway. You should be able to afford a rail ticket for at least some of the way. Otherwise, this will be the first of many long bus trips. Mm-hmm. The driver scratches the match and lights a cigarette. The end flares as he takes a draw. Then he exhales and gestures to the back of the coach. Luggage rack's up there. Drag the following values onto your 8 characteristics. Strength, constitution, power. Okay, so they have sort of a character creation built into the Alone Against the Dark entries, which is kind of nice. I think that's very cool. In the past, I feel like intelligence has been important, so I'm going to give myself a little bit of that. I'm going to say appearance is a 50. What do I not care about the most? Size. Why not? Education's also been important, so I'm going to give myself a 60 education. 60 con, 80 dex, 50. Don't know if that's any good. And of course, you see this automatically pops up. If you'd like more information about what these characteristics mean, read, boom. So you can go here and it takes you right to the page. Again, all of this is, pretty standard fare for how these work, how VTTs work. And I think there's no reason why Fantasy Grounds couldn't do almost this exact same thing. I don't know about this dragging and stuff, because again, the interface for Fantasy Grounds is pretty hard locked. There's sort of it feels like, from an outsider who doesn't know how these things work, it feels like there's a way things have to fit into its mold, but maybe that's not true. Okay, to create your investigator, go to entry 8. Here we go. The driver smokes and watches as you drag your cases to the back of the motor coach. The rack is set inconveniently high in the vehicle. You get a grip on the heavier case. If size is 40, go to entry 23. Okay, so I did not choose... Oh, no, I did. Okay. So we're starting to get our character together. If my size is 40, which it is, because I figured that was the least important. You struggle for a few seconds before the driver comes up beside you and lends a hand, still puffing on a cigarette. Heavy bags for a small one, he remarks. You judge it best to respond with a simple thanks. Okay. So, basically, the first thing that happens in this adventure is I get emasculated. So, kudos for me. Entry 233. The driver flicks a cigarette into the gutter and steps into the motor coach. Its engines cough into life. You board, grateful that you will be the only passenger for the initial part of your trip at least. With mixed emotions, you watch from the window as the tired avenues of your old home slip behind you, receding into the distance. For a few minutes, you can still see the church spire over the brow of a low hill. Then the road dips and it, too, is gone. Arkham's your new home. You'll travel there and make a new start. Okay, so let's see. You'll see two smaller boxes on the right of each character value. Okay, so let's go over to our character, and of course they're pointing out here the 2510. The upper right contains half the value rounded down, the lower right contains the value divided by 5, again rounding down. Sure. We also see hit points, magic points. Our luck is currently 99, sanity is at 50 out of 99, so we've got that going. Kind of curious to see how it goes. Like I said, I've barely been sleeping the last couple nights. My throat's probably already shot, so this could be a mess. I'm hoping to do this as a one-shot. I don't want this to drag out. Not that Alone Against the Dark dragged out. It's meant to be a campaign, but this is not. I just want to give this a shot and see what happens. Okay. Go to entry 134. Coach putters through the countryside. At first, the interior is stifling and your stomach lurches with every bend in the road. However, the driver opens his window and by switching seats, you find a spot where the breeze hits your face. You soon relax into the journey, observing the quaint little hamlets that the coach serves. A heavy-set woman boards at one settlement, gives you a polite nod. She gets off at the next one. The road rises a little, passing cornfields, orchards. Okay, blah, blah, blah. The leaves are turning, the trees are alive with glorious reds and golds. You've just begun to doze when the driver takes a tight bend at speed. You have a luck score. Roll 3 6-sided dice. We call this 3d6. Okay, multiply your 3d6 roll by 5 to get your beginning luck score. Okay, so I don't have a luck score yet. So you can see this is something you can do. I don't know if I can... 3d6 plus 5. You can put a formula in there. Let me see if it'll let me click on this. Maybe not. Okay, that's fine. But basically, you can put a formula into the name of the link. I do this all the time when I sort of homebrew like character creation for rule sets. You see it does it automatically. It's going to now multiply it by 5. 80 is not a bad start. There we go. Yep, so we just enter that value there. Now we must make a roll against our dex. So, we're going to click the word dex, and then we're going to click roll. Let's see how we do. A 3 is great. Dexterity check, because we're also super dexterous, so we had a good shot. So we had 3 levels of success. I guess I don't quite know how that works. Let me see. Click the word dex. Okay, so we know how to make a roll. If your roll equaled your dex or less, you passed. Okay, so we passed. So let's go to entry 261. A desperate yell awakens you. You feel yourself slide from the seat as the driver spins the wheel and the motor coach plunges off the road. Grab hold of the seat in front just in time to prevent a painful fall. The coach stops with a thump. Now you see what's happened. A Fordson tractor has stopped in the road and your driver has had to swerve to avoid this steel obstacle. He leaps from his seat into the road, unleashing a string of curses at the farmer. You take a moment to catch your breath. Perhaps you should offer assistance, but the driver's already returned. He backs the coach up a little and threads it around the tractor, glaring at the farmer. Okay. Entry 71, you resume your journey. The driver takes the curves with much more caution than before. I gotta tell you, I was driving in Ireland, and the roads are incredibly narrow. And that was actually one of my greatest fears, because they would have what felt like hairpin turns on roads that were basically one car wide. And, you know, the locals who were used to the roads would drive at speed. And I was just terrified that somebody was going to come around one of those corners at 40 miles, 50 miles an hour, and I wouldn't have time to get out of the way. But anyway, they know what they're doing. I less so. Okay. The driver takes the curves with more caution. He glances over his shoulder at you a couple of times. Sorry about before, he says. That fellow was dumber than a hog. I'm Silas. What's your name? The accident was at least as much Silas's fault as the farmer's, but it doesn't seem shrewd to antagonize the man while he's driving you through the middle of nowhere. Okay, so now it's time to make him a name for a character. Game Master's Investigator? No. Coop Daleverton. Okay, we may add our age. Okay, so we're sort of getting out and starting on our own, so I don't feel like we would be at my point in life where I'm having weird old man injuries that I don't know how my shoulder stops working. I feel like I'd be younger, so let's say 24. Oh, it says here you should probably be aged between 23 and 36, so I'm going to go with 24. The coach turns onto a narrower road, which weaves uphill through woodland. Silas becomes chatty. Going to Arkham, eh? Can't say I've ever heard of the place. Went to Boston once, didn't like it. Too much hustle and bustle. You got family there, special someone waiting? The afternoon is wearing on, you see no harm in confiding in Silas about your new life. Job, eh? What's your line? Okay, so we can choose an occupation from the following options. So they want you to specifically choose one in this particular case. We got an antiquarian, doctor of medicine, that's posh, journalist, private investigator, or a professor. I'm going to go with a journalist. Okay. You mentioned the reporter's job, which you secured at the Arkham Gazette, on the strength of a few freelance pieces in your local newspaper. It'll be a relief to get away from vapid society columns and whimsical stories. You understand the Gazette covers everything from breakthroughs of researchers at Miskatonic University to the most sordid exploits of local ne'er-do-wells. Should be something to get your teeth into at any rate. A writer? For a newspaper? Silas seems confused, as if he thought the stories somehow wrote themselves. Okay, so now we're going to start doing some stuff here. I'm going to put for my occupation, journalist. Did I spell it correctly? I did. Look at that. Pronoun, I'm he, him. I'm pretty lame, I guess, in that sense. Residence. Got the name of the town we're starting in, so I'll skip that for now. Birthplace. Probably the same town. Credit skill rating is 20. Okay, so now we need to start doing skills. Add a setup, occupation, or skill by dropping it here. So first things first, let's see, it would be an item. Let's see if, nope. So let me see if it's here in the starter set, books, reference items, books, weapons. Nope, I'm looking for skills. Actually, that might be just normal stuff. Cthulhu Wiki, no. Item examples. Oh, again, I want skills. Here we go. So first things first, we need our skill of... What did I say it was? It's the credit rating. Okay, we're going to drag that over here, and we're going to make it... Nope. I'm trying to figure out how to get a 20. No, that's not going to work. I actually had this trouble before. Okay, so since we're having a little bit of an issue, let's go to introductory rules. Or maybe actually it's this. Is it this? User interface. Cards, maps, interface, hide display element, points of interest, character ID, investigative journalism, of course, journal elements. Okay. Nothing off the top of my head, but what I want to do is sometimes you could right-click it, or sometimes if you would click I, Like I'm able to... I figured I could put... Oh, you know, let me try something really quickly. How do I delete this? That's the first thing. Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's make that at 20%. I just had to unlock it, which is how you do it in the other one. Okay. What's next? Your occupation skills are art, craft, photography, history, library. Okay, so now I've got to add these values to those things. Okay. So I'm going to make library, charm, mechanical repair. What's it saying there? Oh, I can choose to accept Cthulhu mythos. Okay. Photography. I'm a writer. History. Language. Maybe I'm insightful, so I'm going to give myself a psychology. So now I can choose 2, but I can't choose Cthulhu mythos. Let's try... going through the list here. I'm not going to do fast talk, because I've got charm. I'm not going to do intimidate. I'm going to do spot hidden, make it a 50. And a listen, I'm going to make a 40. But I'm going to switch these if it'll let me. There we go. So I switched listen and psychology. I made psychology a 40. Listen a 70. Okay. Let me see what happens if I'm curious if it's going to auto-populate or should I drag them over? Oh, it did. Nice. Okay. So now if you're watching, you can see that the sheet's been fully populated. It's dropped in. A lot of skills have starting values, but it's added values for mine when it's appropriate. I'm going to lock that for now. And we're going to keep going. You realize Silas hasn't made a stop since the incident with the tractor. The motor coach winds its way uphill. However, your thoughts are interrupted as the road crests a ridge, and you are treated to a magnificent view of the vista below. A creek snakes through the valley, breaking the rich autumn palette of the tree line. In the distance, the White Mountains rise into the hazy cloud. Now, the White Mountains are in Vermont. Is that where we're headed? I don't know. Yeah, did we start in Rhode Island? Like, I don't recall where we started. Perhaps you're making a mistake by moving to the city. Could you survive on your own in this lush wilderness? Okay. Oh, there's some white-tailed deer lingering by water. Okay, you have a base ability in most skills listed in the brackets after the skill name on the investigator sheet. For instance, you have a 20% climb and a dodge equal to half your dex, which is a 40, so that's pretty good. For instance, okay, choose 4 skills which are not your occupation skills nor Cthulhu Mythos. These are your personal interest skills. Each will be boosted by 20 points. I feel like dodge can't hurt if it lets me do it. Let's dodge one of them. Yeah, let's boost that. What else can be boosted by 20%? Cult. Maybe I've heard some things. I'm going to boost handgun, because sometimes it helps to be able to do that. And I'm going to ooh, locksmith is terrible. So I don't know if going from a 1 to... I mean, 1 to a 20 is not bad. I'm going to do stealth, because my stealth is a 20. So let's do that. Now go to entry 144. Let's see if it does it automatically. So stealth is one that's at 20, currently boosted to 40. So yeah, it's now applied those bumps. The motor coach rattles on through the hills and Silas lapses into silence. The sky darkens behind you, pinks tinting the clouds as the sun descends. Finally, a welcome sight comes into view. A settlement on the crest of a hill. This doesn't look like the pictures you've seen of Ossipee, but perhaps you can persuade Silas to stop while you stretch your legs. Minutes later, a harsh stuttering from the engine interrupts your reverie. Silas frowns and rattles the gear stick. The motor coach falters in its ascent. Ooh. Silas utters a curse, and you don't recognize and grinds his teeth, struggling at the wheel. You seem to inch up the hill until you reach the first buildings, low dwellings constructed from a rough red stone. Silas wrestles the coach into a small bay off the road. He scrambles from his seat and makes for the engine compartment. Okay. You must now choose to make a roll against Drive, Auto, or Psychology. Now, Psychology is something I put a little bit of points into, but I did back off of it a little bit. So I might regret that. My Drive Auto is a 20. My Psychology is a 40. So I think I'm going to have to go with Psychology. Oh, if you choose Drive Auto, you need to roll equal to or less than the skill value. Okay, so Drive Auto is a 20, but here's the problem. If I roll Psychology, I need a hard success, which means you got to cut it in half. So either way, I'm rolling a 20. Okay. I'm going to go for Drive Auto, I guess. No, let's do Psychology, even though, I mean, it's the same number, right? Okay, so I'm going to click Psychology. It's a regular roll card, but it is a hard difficulty. No bonus dice. Don't do it. Okay. Okay, hard difficulty. I get 2 levels of failure. Really want to know now what that means. I'm going to go to introductory rules. Looking for skill checks. I guess it'd be game system. Let's see. Levels of success, regular, hard, okay. I think it's an opposed skill roll, but I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay. So we fail our roll, so we're going to go to entry 194. Silas opens the engine compartment. Silas opens the engine compartment open and sticks his head inside. Let me just see something really quickly. Not important. I'm just curious. Book 2, this is book 1, entry 194. So clearly, I'm just curious if like that's a typo transported from the original text. Yep, it is. So, yeah, okay. I'm just curious. Not important. Silas opens the engine compartment open and sticks his head inside. The hot metal pops and sizzles. He pokes at various components. I don't know if it's a typo. It's just poorly worded. Then withdraws and wipes his brow, smearing it with dark grease. I ain't sure what's wrong. Might be the oil pressure. Might be something knocked off kilter when we took that spill. Can't do much until the engine cools neither. And with the light failing, I reckon we'll be here through the night. With the light failing. He wipes his hand on a rag. The shadows from your surroundings are already long and the air is chilly. You feel stiff from the journey, and a night in the rickety coach sounds unappealing. Silas sees your dismay. This here is Emberhead, miles from any place. I only come through twice a week, but the folk here are good people. Maid Ledbetter keeps a spare room. She'll look after you. Up that alley, turn right, first house on the left. He scratches his cheek, looks again into the engine compartment, then spits on the ground. Meet me back here at 8 in the morning and we'll see how we stand. Okay. So here's the thing. They're offering us 3 choices. Go to May Ledbetter's house where we've been offered a room. Sure. Ask Silas where he's going to spend the night. Challenge Silas about the breakdown. I don't think I would challenge Silas. I don't know anything about cars, clearly, from my failed roll. My psychology didn't yield any information about him being deceptive. So I feel like, and it makes sense that we would have potential car issues after we swerved off the road. So I think I would show a little bit of concern for Silas, though. You ask about Silas's plan. He gives the engine a sour glance before answering. I've got acquaintances here in the village. Reckon one of them owes me a favor. Enough for bed and breakfast in any case. He stares at his grubby hands. Probably won't stretch to a hot bath. You don't seem to have a lot of options. You fetch your cases from the back of the motor coach. The last thing you need is for all your worldly possessions to disappear into some stranger's hovel overnight. Going to 267. You drag your cases between the sullen buildings. You feel surprisingly weary, considering you have spent all day sitting down. Silas's directions lead you to a modest dwelling with a slate roof. The nameplate reads Ledbetter, and underneath a sign in neat copper plate reads Lodging Room. The lane around you is gloomy, but a lamp flickers in the window. A breeze chills your face. You're not about to begin your new life by sleeping in the street. You rap on the weather-beaten door. You're going to go to entry 4. After a moment, you hear footsteps inside the house. A bolt is drawn back, and a wooden door swings open. A figure with loose curls and a rough-looking house dress peers at you. Her gaze takes in your traveling suit and your cases. Her voice has a slight Irish lilt. I will not do that Irish lilt. Nobody needs that. Hello! I will do that, though. Hello. Should I take it as you're looking for a room for the night? You inquire as to her rates. Suppressing a grimace. As far as you've seen, the village does not offer many alternatives. Oh, you'll find them very reasonable, she says. You look tired. I'm May. Come inside and we'll talk over a cup of tea. The Ledbetter house feels cramped with a low ceiling and simple fittings, but it is well kept and a cheerful fire crackles at the grate. In the grate. The aroma of the tea is soothing and the cup warms your fingers. Have you come to Emberhead for the festival? Asks May. Okay, so we've got two options. We can explain what happened with Silas and the coach, or we can ask about the festival. I think I would first, like as a normal person, quote unquote, I would be like, look, here's my story and how I got here. And then if possible, I would ask about So I think I would answer her question. May shakes her head and you glimpse a moment of deep-seated anger in her green eyes. He always drives too fast. Thinks the road is made for him and him alone. He had a mare some years back. That was a terrible thing. You just should have seen the state of the coach. You'd be surprised at the damage done. She sips her tea and gazes past you into the corner of the room. With living here, though, we can't afford to antagonize the man. He's about the only link we have to the world at large, and he's not a bad soul at heart. I suppose that going the same route for 15 years makes a man careless. You have to forgive him. May goes silent for a long moment, then her eyes flick back to you. But you didn't come here to listen to me blather, and you must be hungry. I can rustle you up a bit of stew. How would that be? You ask again about her rates, and May names a price so low you accept it without hesitation. The room is small but comfortable, and the stew dark and hearty. After dinner, you have a couple of hours before your usual bedtime. Talk to May some more, walk around outside, turn in early. I think I would... What would I do? I've chatted with May, so I'm not going to turn in. The question is, do I take a walk or do I spend some more time with May? That is a good question. To talk to May some more, to walk around outside and get your bearings. I think I would, you know what? 1 through 3, I take a walk. 4 through 6, talk to May. 4 through 6, talk to May. May talks about life in Emberhead. In her letters, my sister always asks if I'm not bored living in such a small place. She lives in New York. Then she writes about how frightened she is to walk home at night. I ask you. You mentioned your hopes for a new life in Arkham. May doesn't seem to hear you. It's a small place here, yes, but that means we have a real community. Everybody's face is known, everybody works together. Nobody's excluded. Except those who choose to exclude themselves, of course. I couldn't live anywhere else now. Make a charm roll. Oh, that I did put some points into. But what did I get it up to? I got up to 60, not the worst. Let's give it a shot. Ooh, rolled a 2, which is going to be exceptional. It was almost a 62, which I guess I could have spent luck, because I do have 80 luck, so it's not like I'm short on that stat. Some early morning traffic outside. Let's see. I did make a charm roll that succeeded, so we're going to go to entry 39. As the hour wears on, May's upbeat manner descends into something more reflective. It's not always easy. I'm a widow, you know. We have a little money, and of course I appreciate the custom of travelers like yourself. I know we'll never starve as long as we live here, but I don't see myself marrying again. I know every man in this village. I know them too well, if you see what I mean. Her mouth twists briefly, then she yawns and pushes a hand through her hair. Time for me to turn in. When would you like your breakfast? To the right of the charm skill roll, you'll see this skill has been marked to show you've succeeded. Did it mark it? Charm was a success. Didn't I succeed at something else? Psychology was a fail. Oh, dexterity. You don't check that off. Okay, so yeah, you get the little check there. This can be toggled by double-clicking the mark. If you successfully complete the adventure, you will have the opportunity to learn from your experience with May. So yeah, flagged for development. So that's part of the rules of, spending experience points, whatever you want to call them, to advance skills. Okay, now go to entry 63. As May stands, you hear a clunk behind you. You look over your shoulder, but all you can see is a wooden door securely closed. May tuts. The young lady of the house, she'll have been listening to us. Ruth! Come and greet our guests. There's a short pause, then the door creaks open. Two wide eyes peer at you. From the gap between tasseled hair is a rough nightgown. What do you say? The eyes blink. Pleased to meet you. Now go back to bed. The door closes again. My daughter Ruth, 10 years this summer. She's a delight and a torment all in one. Don't worry, she sleeps in with me. She'll not disturb you. Good night now. You retire to your room. It's a little chilly, but you're too tired to worry about lighting the fire. Sheets are clean, and the bed soon warms up. The silence outside is strange after living in town for so long, but you soon drop off. Entry 154. You dream of fire in the grate, coruscating colors shimmering through the dancing tongues of flame. At first they are tiny, almost microscopic, but they grow and grow until a kaleidoscopic inferno spills from the fireplace, spreading across the floor, up the sheets. You wake with a start. Daylight glints through the curtains. You get up and examine the grate, blinking sleep from your eyes. It's quite cold. Okay, so if you've taken any damage, heal 1 point. We didn't because we got a successful dexterity check when we narrowly missed the tractor, so 166. May seems to have no running water, but is supplied summon a ceramic jug. You freshen up at the washstand and go in. She cooks a hearty breakfast and leaves you at peace to eat. At about 7:30, you are paid up, packed, and ready to go. You bid May goodbye, and she wishes you the best for your new career in Arkham. If you succeeded at a skill roll last night and wish to investigate the results further, go to 178. I did. Did I? 178, 192. I'm going to remember 192 because I didn't take a walk last night, so let's go back. I think we wanted 192. You are already tired of your heavy bags. Hopefully Silas has repaired the motor coach and you can resume your long journey. Sourpuss he might be, but the old driver seemed to understand his vehicle well enough. You pause to check your watch, still 20 minutes early, and round the final corner. The motor coach is gone. Uh-oh. Put your bags down and search the area, trekking up and down slopes and around corners. At the edge of the village, you trace the long road back as it winds across the hill. 8 o'clock comes and goes. There is no coach to be seen. A passing villager notices your bags. Looking for the bus? I heard him take off at first light. He's due back in 3 or 4 days. If you need a place to stay, May Ledbetter rents a room. The man raises his hat to you and strolls on into the village. You curse Silas under your breath. Perhaps he went for parts? But you wonder if the old goat has stranded you here on purpose. Entry 218. May's doing laundry and looks surprised to see you again. Forget something? When you explain the situation, she offers to store your bags while you try and arrange alternate transport. You're grateful to relinquish the load. Nobody here has anything like a car. She strokes her chin and narrows her eyes. Maybe you could find somebody with a horse and a cart for your bags? I can ask around later. Try Mr. Winters at the village hall. He'll know if anyone will. Or ask among the artisans. Their workshops are first left on Silbury Street. She reaches over and squeezes your wrist. Don't worry. I won't see you sleeping in the street, money or no money. You thank May and turn to face the village. Okay, 1 sec. Going to the cough drops, baby. Ricola. See if I can get my throat to calm down a little bit, or I'll pause and pick this up again when my throat's a little better. I have this superpower where no matter how close I am to a garbage can, I can still find a way to miss. Like I'm throwing a basket and then I airball it, but like it's literally right next to me. All I have to do is drop it and I still miss. So that was that. Again. No sleep, clumsy, throat's half shot, old man mystery shoulder pains, don't know what's going on. Okay, we're going to go to entry 6. You wander the streets of Ember. You know what? Let's pause here. I'm going to let this do its thing, and then we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Let's see how long my voice holds up. Yeah, we were about to read entry 6. You wander the streets of Emberhead without any particular destination in mind. The village is built on a relatively flat upland with splendid views. To the north, the hazy tips of the White Mountains reach for the heavens. To the south, the sparkling waters of Lake Winnipesaukee touch the horizon. The village itself takes less than 5 minutes to cross from edge to edge. You arrive on the winding road to the west. The only other road leads to the south, following a lower ridge. Ridge of land as it turns east. In the southwest of the village, an open grassy space borders a ruined church, its graveyard cresting the cliffs. To the northeast, the 3 main thoroughfares meet at a raised black metal structure. It looms stark against the blue sky. So we can go to the local general store, ask about getting out of town, seek out the village hall, walk down to the lower level and check out the eastern road, examine the large metal structure, explore the church, look for people with their own transport needs. I think I'm going to go, let's go to the local general store. Entry 16. The general store is on a corner beside the main road, just before it plunges to the south. Plunges is like a strong adjective, but okay. The shopkeeper is a brisk immense lady with a starched apron and strong shoulders. She looks hard at your unfamiliar face. Transport. There's a motor coach that comes through twice a week. Missed it? Truck brings in my supplies every second Tuesday, but he's not due until next week. She shrugs. It seems Emberhead is content to keep its distance from the outside world. Okay. Says you have enough money to buy 1 or 2 inexpensive everyday items here. Note them down on your investigator sheet. Remember the year is 1927. The shop stocks no weapons except for a dusty hunting knife, which you may purchase if you want. I might have to because I'm better with a handgun, but there's no way that's gonna... Probably should have been a rifle, like a hunting kind of rifle. It's probably what I should have done. That would have made more sense. Okay, so is there anything that I want to buy? I wonder if the book... Solo adventure? Introductory rules? Is there any equipment? Those combat next steps? Skill descriptions? There are a few items in the starter set. Weapons. So if I wanted to, what I could do is I could drag... Again, I'm not going to track it too closely. It's a hunting knife. Hunting knife, would that be a large knife? You can see like knife small being a pocket knife, knife medium being a kitchen knife. So let's do gear and cash. So let's drag this over, see how it works. I have $80 in cash. Or does that go straight to combat? Knife large. Yeah, it goes to combat tab. Okay. Get nunchucks. Okay. What else is there? What other... Let's see if there's other... Just weapons? Is there anything else? Item examples. Yeah, it just shows how to set up things. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that. Again, I'll do something like I did in the last time where after the fact, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I don't know, see if there's a way to figure it out. But until then, I'm not going to worry about it. So now we're going to go to, so we got the hunting knife and let's go to entry 25. You are beginning to get your bearings in Emberhead. Would you like to explore some more? You may choose from another option below. Do not repeat a previous choice. Okay. So once you've tried 4 options, or if you're ready to move on before that, go to entry 3. So we already did the local store. I'm still trying to figure out how to get out of here. So I might do a 96. Look for local people with their own transport needs. Because, yeah, I struck out on that road. So I feel like I'd try and take that to its natural conclusion. Not far from the Ledbetter House on the north side of Silbury Street, there is an open courtyard. The rhythmic tattoo of a hammer seems to announce your approach. The courtyard is the busiest location you've seen yet in Emberhead. It's bordered by a ring of workshops. Some are brick buildings, some only rough huts. The blacksmith ceases to hammer, thrusting something red and glowing into a bucket of cold water. A weaver looks up from his loom, blinking at you, for a moment before returning to his shuttle. Potter, engraver, and carpenter each work in their own space, exchanging friendly banter. You move among the artisans, chatting about their work. Eventually, you bring up the question of export. Some of them send occasional packages with Silas. Some restrict their custom entirely to villagers. You receive no suggestions about alternative transport. Make a psychology roll. Okay, let's see what's going on there. I think, again, that's not my worst skill, but it's not amazing, so let's bring this back to the chat window. And let's roll psychology. It's a regular roll, no tweaks. Looking to get under a 40, I get a 20, so that's good. 2 levels of success, if that matters. I don't think it is, but I'm going to go to entry 106 for a success. One of the workshops is shut up. When you stray close to it, the repartee between the craftspeople becomes awkward, almost forced. Interesting. Now, to the right of the psychology skill, you will see the skill has been marked to show you succeeded. There you go. Yeah, it automatically tracks that for you. Nicely done. Now we're going back to 25. Okay, so we've done 2 of those choices. I think it's hard to ignore, as I'm walking about town, I think it'd be hard to ignore that large metal structure. So let's take a look at that. You walk up the approach, the most central of the village's major streets. It points directly at the odd metal structure. As you emerge from the shade of the nearby buildings, you are greeted by a magnificent panorama spread from the north to the southeast. The last colors of fall tint the hills in a sleepy gold. The structure, by contrast, is made from uncompromising iron, singed black. It supports an immense curved platform at the level of your head. Further struts snake up the central point. It looks like there may have been some kind of sculpture at one time, but are now twisted and melted beyond recognition. An older gentleman passes, looking up at you with rheumy eyes. Are you here for the festival? He asks. That's the beacon. When they light it night after next, you'll be able to see it 10 miles away. He gives a little nod of satisfaction, then moves on, leaning on his walking stick. Now you notice bundles of wood tied and stacked against the building nearby. Perhaps this festival would be an interesting diversion, but you really must head to Arkham as soon as possible. Make a spot hidden. Let's do this. My spot hidden again is not the worst. It's a 50. Let's see how I do. Straight roll. 74. Do I want to spend luck? It's a lot of luck. I'd have to spend 24 luck. I'm at 80, which would bring me down to 54. It's not crazy. I'm going to do it. Let's spend the luck. So my 80 becomes a 54. I'll change that on my character sheet, and I'm going to succeed. As you walk away from the iron structure, you notice something strange about the construction of the village. All the wooden dwellings are concentrated in the west and southwest. To the east and northeast, closest to the beacon, the buildings are formed from dark brick and clay. Does this mean the settlement began at the beacon and spread west? Okay. Did it? So now I need to click spot hidden. See if it'll let me do it. There we go. I double click. It toggles. What happens if I double click again? Okay, cool. Yeah, since I had to spend luck. Now again, when I was doing Alone Against the Dark, that got mentioned as an optional rule, which again, I always played it that way, so I'm just going to keep playing it that way. Go back to 25. Okay, so we've done 3 options. What do we do? We did transport, local people with their own transport, large metal structure. Let's go to Village Hall. The Village Hall backs against a cliff at the east end of Silbury Street. It's the largest building you've seen so far in Emberhead. It is, however, locked and shuttered. You walk around it, peering through the gaps in the shutters. There seems to be one large room, presumably for community meetings, and a smaller annex that serves as an office and an archive. One of the windows is bricked up. Back at the main door, you can see no posted opening hours. Mr. Winters doesn't open up mornings this time of year, says a gray-garbed woman passing by. Best come back this afternoon. You ask whether the office has a telegraph. Don't know, she shrugs. Who would we call? You'll have to try again later. Go to 25. Okay, so now we've done 4. Once you tried 4, so now it's time to go on to entry 3, so let's see what happens. Your morning exertions have left you hungry. You roam the streets of Emberhead looking for sustenance. There's nothing resembling the busy cafes of your hometown or anything that might be called a restaurant. It's beginning to look like you'll have to get supplies from the general store when May Ledbetter comes down the street with a girl trailing in her wake. This must be Ruth. As she notices you, she races past her mother and approaches you with a smile. This is a different Ruth from the shy creature of last night. As she reaches you, she stops and stretches her arms up in celebration. She looks up into your eyes. Abruptly, the smile drops from her face and she looks several years older. Get out before the festival, she hisses. Get out! She blinks hard, then scuttles back toward her mother. May approaches, wrapping an arm around her daughter's shoulders. She smiles. How are you getting on? Have you found transport? Startled, you explain the frustrations of the situation. I'd try Mr. Winters in the village hall. He's always in of an afternoon. You'll be hungry by now. Help yourself to any food in the house. Door's not locked. You glance at Ruth, where she has squirreled herself behind her mother's leg. Her eyes implore you to silence. I'm no rat. Just gonna say it. Ruth trusted me. She gave me a little bit of biz, a little bit of tea, and I'm not gonna rat her out. So I'm gonna say nothing. You take your leave of the Ledbetters and head toward their house. The door opens easily. In the low kitchen, you make a meal from stodgy bread and leftover stew. A little window offers a view to the mountains. If you've learned one thing this morning, it was that Emberhead's streets hold little to occupy the visitor from out of town. But there still are about 5 hours of daylight remaining. You could take some provisions and the bare essentials from your luggage and set out in hope of reaching another settlement before dark. Or you could ask advice from this Mr. Winters. Okay, so Ruth has told us something a little bit menacing. So I think it's fair to say this has just gone from weird to alarming. So I think what I'm going to start thinking for Coop Daleverson is that the responses are going to start being more suspicious, not just frustrated, like just can't get out of this damn town. It's going to be more like I might be in danger. And so I'm going to start doing things that might seem a little more desperate's not the right word, but it's in that vein, right? I'm not going to just be like, oh, well, I have no reason to be suspicious yet. I do now. So let's go to the village hall instead. That's why, because I was sitting there saying, like, I don't know if I'm quite at the point where I just take what I can and split, but that's getting less crazy sounding. But I don't think I've been tipped over just by this one encounter. Let's go to the village hall instead. Entry 11. The village hall overlooks the lower north ridge of the village. You walk along Silbury Street to find it, conscious of the oppressive black metal structure framed at the end of the road. The shutters of the hall are open and some windows left ajar. There is no knocker, but a little bell over the entrance tinkles as you push the front door. Inside, a sturdy door to your right is marked private. To your left, an opening leads through a bright room. You take a few steps inside. Benches line the walls, and there are 2 notice boards mounted between the windows. I think I would sort of take a glance at the notice boards and then knock, if that's an option. The floorboards creak beneath you as you cross the room. You feel a slight spring in your step. Perhaps this room is used as a gymnasium for the village children. One notice board appears to be for the adults of the community and one for the children. The former looks neglected, featuring handwritten advertisements for household items and a yellowed note about telegraph pricing. There's nothing about the festival. The children's notice board has a schedule for weekly crochet services, a number of, I don't know if I'm saying creche, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, and a number of paintings obviously done by the children themselves. Most are incoherent, though colorful. As best you can tell, they depict fireworks or perhaps the tale of Joseph from the book of Genesis. One has lost a pin and hangs upside down, shows a giant bird attacking Emberhead. Or it might simply be that the artist has not yet mastered the subtleties of scale. Make a spot hidden? Let's go for it. Again, spot hidden's a 50. Coin flip of a chance. Let's see how it goes. 20. Success. Entry 30. As the afternoon sun hits the floor, you notice something curious. The boards under the windows are newer than the boards in the center of the floor. The frames also show signs of having been replaced in recent past. Perhaps rain leaked in and rotted the wood. Okay, spot hidden, of course, is already checked. Let's go to entry 37. The door scrapes behind you. A middle-aged, bespectacled gentleman appears in the doorway. May I help you? You explain you're visiting on May Laidbetter's recommendation. Ah, well, I'm Clyde Winters. Not sure I can help you, but would you care for some coffee? I'm partial to a cup in the afternoon. He gestures to the open door behind him. This seems like a worthwhile opportunity, and you're a little thirsty. Speaking of, caffeine. You step through the door marked private. The other side of the village hall is in marked contrast to the public space. This room is compact, lined with shelves of books and file alcoves. One corner is reserved for a tiny pantry and what is presumably a water closet. You study Mr. Winters as he fills the percolator. Although thin on top, his hair is oiled and neatly swept back. His suit is a sober affair and well-tailored, even if the cut is a little old-fashioned. A lesser man working alone might have loosened his bow tie for comfort. On the desk against the opposite wall, you notice what looks like a telegraph set. Okay, so there's two options here. First is go right into asking about the telegraph. Second is make small talk. I feel like, as a reporter, I think I would have the wherewithal to know when to cut to the chase and when to try and put someone at ease, if that makes sense. So I think in this case, I think I would make that small talk. So let me do that. Entry 49. The pot begins to gurgle as you exchange pleasantries with Winters. Living here? It's a trade-off, like so much in life. He looks past you at a high shelf. I could wish for access to a proper library, of course, but I know myself well enough. I'm strictly a dabbler. In the cities, his face wrinkles in distaste. Too many people. Everybody rushing and shouting. We have a special place here in Emberhead, and someone must accept responsibility for keeping it so. That was my father before me, and now the duty falls to me. He lifts his chin and straightens up. This evening, as the sun sets, look out at the landscape around the village. We have peace up here, halfway to the stars. Are we not privileged? Is this not worth the hardships we must accept? He looks at you speculatively. This seems like a good time to talk about the telegraph. So let's give that a shot. Telegraph? Much as we value our isolation, we do need the link sometimes. You're hoping to send a message? I must apologize. The line has been down for 2 weeks. I reported the fault, but of course, they're not so speedy when the problem lies in a rural area. I'm expecting a repair the day after next. I do appreciate how frustrating this must be. The coach is due in, 3 days? But I think he's going west. Perhaps you might engage a wagon? One of the farmers might... You explain that you've asked a few of the residents already, but to no avail. I'll tell you what. Winters pours you a steaming cup of coffee. Dark liquid smells rich and strong. When the repair crew arrive, I'll ask them to take you back with them. How'd that be? They might want $1 or $2 to grease the wheels. The day after tomorrow, it's less than ideal, but it's the first real opportunity you've had. Okay, so I've gotten the information that I get from him. Again, I don't want to be just... In my mind, not that I know this, being a good journalist is about establishing connections. So I wouldn't be so transactional as to get the information I wanted and leave, just like I wasn't ready to just cut to the chase at the beginning of the the conversation. So I think I'll ask about his library. He seemed to bring that up, and so I'll get him talking. Hopefully he reveals a little bit more. So we're going to go to entry 62. You make a small but flattering remark about a couple of the volumes on his shelves. Winter blushes with pleasure. Well, of course they're not my personal collection. They belong to the village, he says. But I did select most of the recent items. This is the community's library, you see. I put up the private sign to stop people from just wandering in from meetings in the other room, but this really is a public space. You scan the shelves. There is a sparse but respectable collection on mathematics and the sciences, passable sections on history and arts, and a shelf of literature. He has a few lowbrow novels tucked away in a corner with tatty copies of Bizarre Tales magazine. Quality does not always equate to popularity, I'm afraid. Winters gives you an apologetic smile. Let's see. Take the time for some research in the library. What's my used library? 60, not bad. Let's do that. Winters is happy for you to spend the rest of the afternoon in study and offers you an upright but comfortable chair. You have enough time to pursue one line of research in depth. So we've got history of the area, talk about the festival, to read something of the sciences, read something of weird fiction. Well, they keep mentioning the festival. And it seems to be a big deal, and at its heart is this bizarre metal structure. So I think I'm going to do a little research on that. And when I say I've played this before, I have no I know what the ending builds toward. I don't recall how I got there. So I don't know the details of the journey. You are not surprised that there's no published work on Emberhead's festival. Winters pokes around and finds a cased monograph handwritten on yellowing paper by Dr. Eniolowski. An acquaintance of my father's, I believe, Winters says. The manuscript is somewhat difficult to read and you make slow progress. Eniolowski speculates that the festival has its origin in pagan rites brought over by Celtic settlers, which celebrate the ancient festivals of Beltane Samhain, Imbolc, and Lufnazd. The pronunciations are on fire, off a cliff, and crashing into a valley, so I apologize. There is some discussion of the struggle between the seasons and a couple of oblique references to the alignment in Emberhead. Eniolowski suggests that the meaning of the festival slowly changed around the turn of the century. The monograph terminates mid-sentence at the end of page 28, just as it begins to discuss the modern practices. You ask Winters if he has the remaining pages. No, I'm afraid those have been misplaced, he said. Perhaps they're still in the library somewhere, but he shrugs. I must make time for a thorough stock take. Go to 99. If the afternoon wears on, you have not quite finished reading when Winters glances out the window and stands up. He clears his throat. Okay. So I think what we're getting the hint is like, hey, I'd like to go home. And now it's asking us to do a credit rating roll, which mine's garbage. I have a feeling there's a chance to bribe him, but let's see how this goes. So my credit rating is a 20. I don't know why it says it's a 40. I don't know how that happened. Did I spend extra on credit rating? I don't think I did. Let me change that to a 20. I don't know why it's listed twice. I guess that's one problem. But I think that was meant to be a 20. Again, because I had to pause, I don't recall if I changed something, but... let's do it. Oh, if you're watching, that was a 2 for a hot second. Then it became an 82 when the 3D die tipped over. And again, it's something I've always wondered. Maybe I can check the tape. Like, does it sort of conform the three-dimensional roll to the random number generated, or does it actually involve that die roll into the I have no idea. I guess, like, as soon as I click the button, was it always going to be an 82 and the rest is just theater? That's what I'm trying to wonder. Okay, so I failed. 105. I'm afraid I have some errands to run before dark, so I must close the library for today. I do hope you'll return tomorrow afternoon if you're so inclined. You leave the building with Winters waiting as he locks up. You thank him for the coffee and the access to the library. He disappears off down an alley. You hope to be away from the village before tomorrow afternoon, but it's good to know that there's a place you can occupy yourself. Let's go to 180. As the light fades, you return to the Ledbetter house and eat a light supper. May is unusually taciturn. Ruth's eyes flick to yours several times during the meal. There's an urgency there you cannot quite interpret. Afterwards, May ushers the girl into their room. You've been in Emberhead for barely one whole day and you already feel confined by it, both geographically and socially. The evening seems to offer little. I don't have... So there's 3 options. To do some stargazing, to talk to Ruth. Previous appointment. I don't have a previous appointment. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to try and talk to Ruth, but I'm going to do it quietly. If it looks like it's like, excuse me, may I talk to your daughter? I definitely would not do that. And I'll backtrack to 180 if that's the case, because, you know, I don't have a GM to sort of explain the nuance of what I'm trying to do. So let's just see if we can talk to Ruth without. Okay, so there is a way to do it. Okay. In time, May returns to the kitchen and busies herself clearing up. To speak to Ruth, you'll need to get May to leave for a short while. That's exactly what I was hoping. You help with the dishes and try to think of some ruse. In time, an idea comes to you. It comes and you ask about Silas and his friends in the village. May narrows her eyes. You know, it's Troy on the other side of town, she says. Not sure I'd call them friends. More like an old feuding couple. They probably spent last night at Troy's place. You ask if May could visit Troy and ask if Silas mentioned any plans to return. May looks dubious. Right now? Okay, so now we're going to do a charm, persuade, or fast talk. And I've got charm. It's a 60. It's not the worst. It's not the best. Let's give it a shot. By appealing to her emotions, by explaining how further delay threatens your career, by trying to rush her into compliance. Okay. Okay, so appeal to her emotions. I'll appeal to her emotions. She seems to have a connection with her daughter and say, like, look, I was supposed to notify my parents when I got blah, blah, blah by telegraph. I can't do that. They might be worried. So let's appeal to emotions. And I'm going to do a charm 68 where I needed a 60. So I'm going to spend luck. So now my luck goes from a 54 to a 46. And that's a success. Charm already's got a check by it, so I don't need to do that. Well, I suppose it'll only take a few minutes. May fetches a coat and heads out into the night. You give her time to get clear, then rap on the bedroom door. Nothing comes but silence. Then feet pad across the floor and the door opens a few inches. Ruth's eyes stare through the gap, glancing from left to right. You explain her mother has left the house and ask what has been bothering her. Those eyes flick up to stare at you. It's tomorrow, she whispers. Same as every year. They took my da. They'll take you if you let them. The conviction in her eyes is chilling. You press her. Who is she talking about? All of them. Everyone. They've been watching since you got here. You're marked. Her voice is hollow. 1 year, when I'm older, they'll take me. You hear footsteps approaching from outside. Ruth's eyes flash and the bedroom door slams. You turn back to drying the dishes. May enters and removes her coat. Oh, that man is a waste of time, she hisses, and heads through to the bedroom. Okay, so I've already got charm checked, so we don't need to take care of that now. Let's go to 157. The familiar surroundings of your guest room are becoming constrictive. The neat bed, small wardrobe, and dressing mirror have the feel of a prison cell about them. What are you still doing here in Emberhead? Your new life is elsewhere. You lie in the bed and stare at a small crack in the ceiling. You turn over the day's events, thinking through the little details you spotted. You are certainly weary from the elevation and fresh air. But do you still feel safe here? No, I do not feel safe. I do not feel safe. Sir, I do not feel safe. So I'm going to try and stay awake. I just had a little girl with sweet intentions, but a creepy delivery tell me that they're going to come get me. They took her da and they're going to take her too. Yeah, I'm starting to ratchet right up to 11. So I try to stay awake, but sleep presses down on you. You blink it back and sit up, trying to think through your situation. Everything in Emberhead seems to be working to stop you leaving. Perhaps the answer is to strike out at first light, to walk as far and as fast as you can. You can always return for your possessions, and if you lose them, you have nothing so precious that it cannot be replaced. A tiny creak draws your attention to the other side of the room. Slowly, almost silently, the doorknob is turning. To grab it and wrench the door open, go to 248. Pretend to be asleep. Huh. Yeah, do I... Because if I grab it and wrench the door open, I'm sort of tipping my hand. Let me pretend. You slide onto the bed and lie on your side, eyes closed. The hinges creak as the door opens. There's a long pause. A footfall sounds inside the room, then another. The steps are careful and feminine. You give it a moment, then open one eye a crack. May crouches with her back to you. She's fiddling with something in the fireplace. Let's wait and see what happens, or you can confront May, but I'm going to wait and see what happens. After another few moments, May glances round at you. Then you hear a soft scratch of a match being lit. She applies it to something in the grate and tiptoes from the room. Once you hear her bedroom door, you creep to the grate. A small mound of black powder, no bigger than a thimble, is burning there. It gives off heady fumes. So, you may make a hard science botany. I do not have that. I do not have that at all. I have a 1. I guess it's technically possible. I rolled a 16. I could actually get there. What the hell? Why not? It makes my 46 luck now a 31. I'm just blowing through luck, so it's probably going to bite me in the ass at the end, but the distinctive whiff from the powder recalls a demonstration of dangerous herbs from one of your old professors. Although there's probably more than one component, you're fairly sure that the powder contains henbane, which has soporific and hallucinogenic properties. You extinguish the small amount of powder and scatter it throughout the grate. Okay, so that's, let me check that, because I technically succeeded at botany. Stay awake all night, baby. I don't trust anybody. You stare out the window and watch as the sun reaches the horizon, bathing the village in sickly orange. It has been a long night, and you feel stiff and irritable. You rub your eyes. A few minutes later, you hear May bustling in the kitchen. Then the front door opens and closes. Make a con roll. If you fail, your skill rolls today suffer a penalty. Okay, let me do... I guess I did breathe in a little bit. Constitution's decent. But I fail. Okay. Okay, so I failed. So basically every skill check that I'm going to make during this day is going to be done at a disadvantage, which of course is you roll 2d10s and you take the lower one. So, but it does not apply to luck, sanity, or damage. You can't use, I don't think you can use luck for a stat check, so I couldn't take that constitution check and adjust it. The Ledbetter kitchen is empty, although bread and eggs have been laid out for your breakfast. There's a note from May explaining that she has taken Ruth out for a few hours. Now here's a little bit of a If you were involved in a fight in the village last night, I'm not. Otherwise, go to 78. You make a quiet circuit of the village, pausing in unobtrusive places to watch the villagers. It's rather busy for this time in the morning. Yawning locals stream back and forth along the roads, carrying bundles of split logs to the site of what you've heard referred to as the beacon. You see 2 figures already up in the superstructure, arranging the wood. The festival bonfire will be most impressive. But do you intend to stay to see it? No. You suspect by now that something is amiss here. While the villagers are distracted, you may do some illicit investigation. Or you may simply leave town without looking back. So what I can do is I can search the bedroom, see what's up with May, because clearly she's in on something. I could go to the village hall, get some time alone, take a closer look at the artisan's courtyard, but I feel like... Yes, I feel like like I said, I'm ratcheting up my paranoia to 11. I feel like I'm in danger, so I am going to get out of town. I'm going to slip down to the east road and flee for good. As you approach the southern road that descends to the lower ridge, you see 4 villagers blocking the road. With farm tools and clubs, you veer off and head toward the west road. Your heart sinks as you see exactly the same scene as the other exit from the village. You're trapped. Okay, so I can try and talk my way past, or I can slip by into disguise. Now, as disguise, actually, it is, and my skill is a 5. So chances of that working are pretty small, but let me see if I can talk my way past, because I do have charm. I don't have fast talk. I don't have intimidate. So here's one of the tricks where, you know, we're running sort of like a choose your own adventure style. Clearly, you could leave town without walking on the road. in my mind. But we'll accept that because that's sort of how we have to do it. The southern group appears less sharp than the western group. You stride up to them and explain why they're needed at the beacon. They look dubious. You offer to watch the road for them and hold out your hand for a pitchfork. Nah, you come with us, says the first one. His ape-like brow bends into a frown. Okay, make an extreme fast talk roll. So that makes sense that it'd be fast talk in this case. So my fast talk is a 5, so an extreme is a 1. Again, I got it with botany, but the chances of it being close enough are very small. Especially since I think all my skill checks are at a -1. Are they? They are, right? Shit, because if that wasn't the case, I would have had a 13. You know what? Oh, you can push it. Right. I forgot. So pushing in, I don't know if this came up in Alone Against the Dark, but one of the rules in Call of Cthulhu is you can push rolls. But what you have to do, it's not quite like Year Zero engine rules from Free League. Again, I keep looking at my books. Where there you just roll it and then you figure it out. I think in this particular system, you tell your GM that you're thinking of pushing it, and then your GM is supposed to tell you the consequence of failure. And then you decide, do I accept that consequence and continue to push, or does that seem too risky? I'm just going to accept my failure because I don't have a GM to work with. But that's sort of, I think, how it works in Call. Don't quote me, but I think that's sort of the idea. Okay, these locals are not as stupid as you think. They grab you and march you back into the center of the village. The fading light from a narrow window tells you afternoon is giving way to evening. Your hands are shackled behind your back so you cannot even lie down on the rough bed. A woman you've not seen before comes in. Her face is wrinkled and her eyes dull. They do not meet yours, but she puts a cup to your lips. Reject it. Or drink. I'm going to reject. You turn your face away, and when she tries again, you dash the cup from her hand using the side of your head. The clear liquid spills across the floor. The woman gives a half shrug and turns to leave the room. You shout after her, but she gives no reaction. You soon become thirsty. As the light fades outside, your little prison becomes dark. You can hear much activity around the building. Occasionally, an orange glow passes the window. The only comfortable position in the shackle seems to be to sit against the end of the bed with your arms hanging behind you. You need to concentrate and come up with a plan. There's clearly no escape from your bonds. You do not know exactly what your captors want from you, but you cannot ignore the fact that they have spent the entire day constructing a massive bonfire. The door scrapes, wrenching you back into the moment. Orange light spills into the house from blazing torches held at the threshold. 2 large villagers step in and grab you. At least you assume they're villagers. They wear heavy black cloaks and their faces and hands are painted entirely black, save for only a red triangle centered on their left eye. You try to drag your legs, but they reach under your arms and lift you bodily from the bed. Outside, it seems that the whole village has congregated to see you. Every single one has a blackened face with the red triangle motif. Torches sputter and spill fire. You struggle. You can see the physical resistance is hopeless. You are marched to the central street and turn to face the beacon. Here we go. The procession down the approach is slow and formal, save when you sense weakness and yank at your captors. A chill touches you when you see 3 human shapes carried ahead of you, draped in red cloth. The beacon looms larger and larger, its dreadful silhouette a black triangle pointing to the stars. A low drone begins among the cloaked figures. Unbidden, the word mourners come to mind. Smoke from their torches make you cough. You feel heat on your face. As you reach the cleared area around the beacon, 3 dancers break from the pack, young girls swinging balls of fire in a spectacular arc, drawing circles in the night air. One by one, they draw close to you and touch your forehead with sooty fingers. Each kisses you 3 times, on the left cheek, right cheek, then forehead. Then they whisper in your ear. The smell of kerosene fills your nostrils. Okay, make a an app roll. Is that appearance? Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, I feel like this, like they said, all, I guess, skill checks. I'm not going to do this with disadvantage. 51. My skill's a 50, so I fail by 1. And because it's a check of an ability, not a skill, I can't use luck to save it. Through your sacrifice, the village will be reborn, says the first dancer. You pass from earth to air for all our sakes, says the second. Through incandescence may you find rapture, says the third. Their dance weaves off and disappears behind the buildings. As you arrive beneath the beacon, 10 villagers close in on you. Working with surprising coordination, they immobilize you and lift you up the blackened iron stairs to the raised platform. You cannot help but shiver at the sight of the central framework, twisted from past blazes, and what you can now clearly see to be fastening points for chain. None of the eyes meet yours as they lash you to the metal. The village sings now, something rhythmic and ancient, carved from old syllables. A second group ascends to the beacon, carrying the 3 red-draped bodies. With reverence, they arrange their burdens in a triangle around your feet. Then they withdraw, leaving you alone with the dead, shin deep in a sea of kindling. I think I chose Dex over Strength, so let's see how this goes. It seems the entire village is gathered around the beacon to watch you burn. Behind the face paint, you recognize May Ledbetter, and yes, that is Silas, the coach driver, standing at her side. The audacity and scale of the deception staggers you. A man steps up on the dais and raises his hand with quiet authority. The frame of his spectacles obscures the red triangle on his face. So we draw here together again on this night as we do each year, and we give thanks to the one who will preserve the village against the fire of the void. You will be taken by the ones from above in our stead. Your death will bring life to our streets and bounty to our fields. It will safeguard our children and our elders alike for another year. We salute you. He bows his head. All around the beacon, bearers step forward and lift their torches to the edge of the raised platform. A ring of tiny flames flicker up around the perimeter. As they wink, the singing of the villagers drops into an unearthly rhythm. So we've got 2 choices here. Throw all your remaining strength against the bonds or to see what happens and just wait it out. I feel like we're on fire, so I don't think I'm going to wait and see what happens. So I'm going to throw my remaining strength into it. You're tired, and your flesh ought to be insufficient against the dark iron of the chains, yet you can feel them give a little. There is a weakness in one of the links. I'm going to make a strength roll again. I'm not going to... How long? Yeah, I don't know. Skill checks, sure. Got a 50 for my strength, and I roll a 92. Not going to happen. The flames snake across the kindling, catching and rising. Smoke rises and becomes difficult to see the villagers. The 3 bodies surrounding you catch fire, blazing with sooty red flames. You begin to cough as the smoke enters your lungs and fight down the urge to panic. If you learn the strange chant and wish to try it, this is the moment. I did not. I did not go to the library. I just tried to book it out of town. I did not do my research. And it's going to cost me. The flames lick at your legs, your eyes water, and you're shrouded in smoke. It might be your imagination, but you think you can feel a slight give in the chains. You throw yourself against them, giving no thought to how they bite into your wrists. Take 1d6 points of damage. Okay. This does not reduce me to 0. So again, you can build in the damage roll right here. It's just formatting. You do like a bracket, like /R or something, 1d6. It's not hard to do. I do it all the time. I do 1 point of damage. Would that be under the combat tab? Hit points. It's not on the combat tab. It's just right up front. So I'm at 9 out of 10. So if this reduces you to 0, it did not. Otherwise, make 1 more strength roll. Let's give it another shot. Again, it's my skill's a 50. I get a 20. Got a shot at this. Entry 93. Desperation lends you strength and you yank at what you guess to be the weak point of the chain. It breaks. You throw the chain off, stumbling across one of the red-shrouded corpses, heading away from the watching villagers. You cough. Your hair and eyebrows smolder. Okay, take another d6 from the fire. It's not going to kill me, so I might get out of here. 2 points of damage brings me from a 9 to a 7 out of 10. You leap from the conflagration on the far side of the beacon. Your heart lurches momentarily at the sight of the sheer drop beneath you. But you land a few inches short of the edge. You roll to extinguish your burning clothes, your lungs feel singed, everything hurts, the chant of the villagers gathers in intensity. You peer around the beacon. They don't seem to have noticed your absence amidst the billowing smoke. Most of them are staring into the sky. You crawl as rapidly as you can for the cover of the nearest building. Ooh, okay, here we go. With the villagers assembled at the beacon, the streets are empty, and you're able to pad away from the blaze. You must get out of town before they finished. The chanting seems to accelerate as you round the corner of the southern road. Here, parked against the side of a general store, you have your first piece of luck since reaching Emberhead, a bicycle. You learn to ride one of these in Providence. You settle into the saddle, your burned flesh protests at the contact. So, here's the interesting thing. There's two options, wait and observe what's going on or ride out of town immediately. The journalist in me almost wants to see what's going on because, to be honest with you, like, they think I'm in there. They don't really know that I'm not burning alive. But I'm hurt and I've just nearly been burned. So I think that would, if I hadn't actually been set on fire and taken damage, I might realize, like, oh crap, I'm really injured. I need to leave. It takes a moment to recapture the skill of riding the bike, but after the first turn to the east, there's a long downhill out of Emberhead. You hear screams and crackles above you, but concentrate on balancing and working the pedals in your weakened state. You've had too many hopes dashed in this abomination of a village. You keep your head down and ride away. 20 minutes later, with no sign of pursuit, you stop for a breather at the top of a hill. You can see Emberhead rise in the distance. The entire village appears to be ablaze. The dark column of smoke above it will be visible for many miles, but if the village is as isolated as it seems, help is unlikely to arrive in time. You watch the place burn for 5 minutes, then you mount your bicycle again and ride towards civilization and dawn. Congratulations. You've survived this adventure. You may keep your investigator sheet and use it for another Call of Cthulhu scenario. If you have check-marked the small box besides any skills, you will have a chance to improve them through experience. So let's just see how it works. Usually it's like if you fail the skill check, which is good, then you go up by a certain amount. Who cares? We're not going to do it. So there we go. A little peek at how official Chaosium material works in Foundry. Like I was mentioning, they did a bit of an overhaul to the character sheet. I thought, this journal worked very well for everything we were going to do. I thought it was cool that they could incorporate the character sheet into the journal itself and carry over what you did into the sheet through like the narrative. And I gotta say, like, on some level, I really liked how it worked in Fantasy Grounds, and I genuinely appreciate there's some really good material. I think like Masks of Nyarlathotep might be available. I think there's some like big adventures available for Call of Cthulhu in Fantasy Grounds, and I'm hoping this is the start of that kind of partnership as well. I would love to see what they could do, because there's certain things, again, that Foundry can do that, Fantasy Grounds can't. Like, one of the things I noticed that got imported was music. They brought in some playlists. I don't know. I usually leave music out and add it in post just to make everything cleaner. I probably could have done it here. But, it's just a lot of really nice stuff that, let's see, that I think I think can work really well going forward. So I hope Chaosium, really takes the time and has success with their efforts here in Foundry. I hope it means like good things for, is RuneQuest? I think RuneQuest might be coming. I think they're Chaosium. I hope other companies sort of get on board. I'd love to see Mongoose, of course, Traveler, get on board, especially with their 2300 line. Yeah. I don't know. I thought this worked really well. And of course, we've always said we're unabashed fans of Foundry VTT here on the channel. And it's not to take anything away from the others. Like I said, I genuinely really like Fantasy Grounds. I don't like Roll20. I don't care for Alchemy. But doing Vaesen with Alchemy was solid enough. But I wouldn't make it my first choice if I had a choice. So I think with that, I think this is going to wrap up my solo Call of Cthulhu for a little bit. Again, it was really nice to get some time with Fantasy Grounds. It was really nice to explore the nascent efforts of Chaosium supporting Foundry VTT officially. So with that, appreciate everybody who's checked this out. If you're watching this, that means you've found our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe if this is your thing. Again, I think I've gotten enough solo Call of Cthulhu for a little while, so we'll see what comes next when it comes time to fill gaps in our availability. And otherwise, yeah, if you prefer audio versions of these actual plays, which is the main thing that we do here, just search for Black Lodge Trivia Night wherever you get your podcasts, and we should show up. If you want to jump into our Discord and discuss RPGs and CRPGs, the invite link should be in the notes. What else? We've got some Symbaroum coming up from Free League. Matt's going to be running that. We're continuing our Mithras Imperative Cold War spy game. That's what I'm running at the moment. Yeah. So otherwise, thank you very much for everybody who checks this out, and take care. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye. The music during the RPG session in Foundry was provided by the Foundry module Tabletop RPG Music and composed by Ian Fisher. You can find his Patreon at www.patreon.com/tabletop RPG music, all one word.